Hi everyone, this is Nikki of Nikki Hearts Cards, and I'm here today for ScrapbookPal. We are going to be looking at some fun Lawn Fawn. This is the new set called Scent with Love. It's got these adorable skunks and all of these fun things that could be used for Valentine's. It could be used for lots of different things. And then there's also this Scent with Love add-on. So that has like a little strawberry, it has a cupcake, some flowers, a balloon, and one extra skunk. So I'm going to be using these today to make a fun Valentine's card. You don't have to make a Valentine's card with these, but when you see these products, you're just gonna really want to. So I got this XOXO, which is their giant XOXO, this stencil, which is amazing. It's a layered heart stencil, so you can use both layers of the stencil. And then we're going to make a mini slimline size. They've come out with some dies that allow you to do that very easily. So I'm going to use all of these products today. Make sure if you hadn't hit the subscribe button for ScrapbookPal that you do that, and let's get right into this video. I like to start with my background, so I'm going to use some Bristol Smooth paper, and I'm going to cut this largest rectangle out. This is the size of the mini slimline, and that will cut our background out and make that little stitched line border, which is going to be precious. I just want to use one color for the background today, Spun Sugar, and it's a very light pink. We are going to blend this darker on the edges with more of a spotlight look in the middle. So this is a really light color. I'm going for a very subtle look, and I want to make just a beautiful pink background to this card. So I will speed this up a little bit so you can kind of see how I did that. And you'll notice that I'm changing hands back and forth with my blending. I have a torn rotator cuff, and so my right arm, it's really hard for me to do things. So if you think this is a little messy, I am not doing this with my dominant hand. So I'm doing the best I can here. We're all doing the best we can. And I think it actually turns out really pretty great. So blending with your left hand is possible if you need to do that, if you've got a sore right hand or something that you're not able to do, and it really is very forgiving, so it makes a beautiful project no matter how you do it. So see if you can tell, but I've tried to keep it very light towards the center to make more of a spotlight, and I'm just going to go back around the edges and add a little bit more depth and darkness to this anywhere that I feel like it's not quite the same. When you're holding on to a piece of paper that you're ink blending on, the ink is actually wet, so you can make little marks on it. I'm just holding it barely with a corner and trying to let my mat do most of the work of holding it. So now that this is finished, I'm going to set it aside carefully and let it dry. So what I'm going to do next is use some stencils on it, and if you don't let the ink dry, it's definitely going to mix in with your other colors, and my next color is going to be white. So I'm going to let this dry, I would say at least an hour, and then we'll get started on the stencils. Of course, in the video, we're going to get right into the stencils. So I'm using this layered heart stencil, and I'm using that same mat. I've wiped everything off, and we're going to tape down this. You could use some pixie spray, something on the back of it. I just don't want to get any residue on my newly ink blended area, so I'm going to use some post-it note tape to hold it down. For our first layer, we're going to use Lawn Fawn pigment ink in Yeti, and this is a white ink, a white pigment ink. This definitely needs to dry also, so we are going to get it on and then we're going to let it dry before we do our next layer. But this ink is very wet, goes on really smooth, nice coverage. It may be hard to see in some of the edited photos at the end because it is light, but it gives such a subtle dimension to this paper. So I'm going to get this on there, and then we're going to move on to our next layer. Here's the reveal of what that white looks like on this paper. And remember, it's wet, so I'm being very careful not to touch any of this. But look at how cool that looks. I think it just looks amazing using all of that white. So I let this dry for at least an hour, and there were probably two small areas that were still slightly wet, so I used a heat gun after that time, and then I moved on to the silver. So this stencil paste in silver is new with Lawn Fawn. They've got lots of different stencil paste, and I am going to use the silver one today on this project because, like I said, I'm trying to keep everything real subtle but just gorgeous. Stenciling takes me a long time using stencil paste. I like it to be perfect and not show lines, so I want to go over it real evenly. So I sped this up to show you, and it almost doesn't even look sped up because of how slow I go with stencil paste. But the effect that you get with it makes it well worth the effort. I think I'm a little slower with my arm too, so sorry about that. So we're gonna get all this laid down, and then I'm gonna show you the reveal. It's awesome. Okay, here we go. Let's pull this off carefully. I just love these hearts and how much they stand up off the paper. It looks so cool, and I don't know if you noticed the background of the white hearts, but it is just really cute. So let's get to stamping our images. I'm going to stamp lots of images. I'm going to use a Misty because I don't know yet how many of these little guys I'm going to use. So we'll get right into that. This is my first time using this stamp set, so always remember to rub your stamps off. So like the part that's going to be doing the stamping, you see how I'm kind of rubbing it? There's a little bit of, I guess, just kind of from the manufacturing, there's always a little area where it may not stamp even if you don't rub on them. So that's what I'm doing with these stamps as I put them down. I'm going to stamp all these skunks. I really love the hugging skunks for many other things. I feel like that could be so many things that are not Valentine's. And this little guy, he looks like he's holding something. So he's going to be a great little guy to have just holding a balloon or whatever you want to do. And then I'm going to stamp as many of the little extra items as I can. And of course, I'll get into the other stamp set too. Here's the add-on set. So the reason that I think that you would want to get this add-on set is to have more elements in your scene. This gives you a little box of candy, which I actually replaced the heart from the other set into this box of candy. It has a cupcake, it has a chocolate covered strawberry, a bunch of flowers, a balloon in a heart shape, an extra skunk. It's just got a lot of extras, and when I'm building a scene, I like to have as many options as possible. I feel like that just makes it really fun. So I think the add-on set's definitely worth it. The other thing that's a big deal about the add-on set is that it says Happy Valentine's Day, and if you're using this as a Valentine's card, you usually want to have that sentiment. So that sentiment alone to me makes this a really good set to get to. I'm going to be using the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. This ink is a Copic friendly ink, so I usually stamp my images 2 to 3 times in this color because I like to make them as dark as possible. And we're going to be Copic coloring these little guys. So I'll get this stamped and we'll get to coloring. I'm going to start with coloring one of the skunks, and as you can see at the bottom of my paper, this is how I swatch things. I love to lay out my different colors and match them, and I know you can look at swatches you've pre-made, but it always is nice to look at them with the colors that you're going to be blending with, because I'm sure most of us do not have all of the Copic markers, so it's really nice to look at what will work together. So today I'm going to do the skunks in a couple of different colors. My darkest skunk, I'm going to have a 5, 7, and 9, and this is the C, so the cool gray. And then my lighter skunk, I'm going to do in 3, 5, and 7. So I will pop things up. I decided that my lightest area was going to be in the middle of everything here. So light in the middle, fading out to darker. So I start with my number 5 just to kind of give myself an idea of where I'm going. And then I'm going to move in with the next darker color, which will be the C7. So with this one, I'm going to color kind of around this guy, and then we'll go back in and put our darkest areas in. These, I mean, you really could just color them one color if you wanted and go back and maybe light in the middle. They're very small areas to color, but I like to really play with my Copic coloring. So here is the darker of the 2 skunks that I made, and I'm going to finish him up, and then we're going to move on to some other things. I'm going to show you generally the colors that I used in my pinks, so like in the flowers and those kinds of things, so you can see it, and then we will move on to putting the card together. Here's that final on the darker skunk so you can see what he looks like. I will go back and make his nose and his little ears pink, but for the most part we're done with him. I did add a little bit of C0 to his belly just to kind of give it a little bit of shadow. I'm going to use RV10 on the pink area, so I'm doing the pink on the envelope, our pink flowers. I'm using this also as the ears and the noses and the cheeks of the different ones. So I use this, and you can really build up the layers by using multiple layers with the same marker. But if I decide I want to go back and make anything lighter, I will also use an RV00. So I just added several layers, and I'm happy with these flowers. It's time for me to go in and do the stems. Use the YG17 as the main part of the stems, but then I go back in with YG11, which is a much lighter green, and add some highlights. So you can go into a dark green and put something lighter over it, and it will lighten the area that you have. So that's, alcohol markers are very interesting in how they work like that. So this is a good way to make some highlights, lighten up an area if you need to, and I did that on the stems. So for the giant XOXO, I cut out several different layers. I cut out a pink layer from Lawn Fawn ballet slippers. That's going to be our shadow. This die is so fun because it takes up a big part of your card, but it just makes such an impact. And then I cut out several layers of white. I'm going to start with one layer of white and ink blend that. I love when sentiments have kind of an ombre look to them. So I'm still going to use that same one color, but I'm going to make it darker at the bottom and then fade it up. I think this just gives it a bold, amazing look. And so I'm going to go in and get that done. Here's what that looks like. And then I've already cut out the ballet slippers cardstock, and I'm going to offset this slightly to give it a slight shadow, which really makes it stick up off the page and show up well. So I put my little XOXO right in the middle, and now it's time to dress up my little guys. I added some bows, gave the girl a bow on her head and the boy a little bow tie in the same color. And now I'm going in with my Jelly Roll white pen, and I'm adding little highlighted areas. I love doing this. I don't know who I saw doing it, but I feel like in little characters, it really kind of makes them stand out to add some highlights. And I don't really know that there's such a science to this. It's mainly just making sure you're staying consistent with where you would say sun or where you want to highlight. I feel like it all needs to be on one side, or it makes sense to where it's placed. So I do that a little bit on the flower. You can't see it a ton on the flower or in these pink bows, but it really does make a difference in what you're doing. So I would highly suggest, if you want your characters to really stand out, to add some white gel pen to them. Here's the final project. Look at that silver stenciling paste. I love that, and these little skunks are so cute. So just a great way to make a cute little Valentine's card. Here's the final project photos. I want to make sure that if you hadn't done it yet, hit the like button and subscribe to the ScrapbookPal channel. I will be back on this channel hopefully every month, and I hope to see you again soon. My name is Nicki, and I'm Nicki Hearts Cards. So have a great day. See you soon. Check out the links in the description. Bye.